old school rock and roll for you there. Welcome back to the Stockwell and Eldridge show. Today's show, though, is Eldridge Sparkles and Kinetic Construction Show.
Good morning.
We kind of talked about how busy Kinetic is. I just want to reiterate that they do still have space for people. They build in space for people, so you don't have to wait 2 years to meet these guys personally.
That's true.
Yes.
Yep.
And then
but a small wait.
Well, there might be a little bit. You know, I think any good contractor, you're going to be waiting a couple weeks out. So always plan ahead. If you're planning on a project, get in touch with your lender. Call Wells Fargo because you guys have some great renovation loans.
Yeah, well, we talk about all the time. I mean, there's even, doing cash out or a home equity. And again, maybe, if you get a bid, people may want to think, well, gosh, how am I going to plan for that? Do I do the cash out or refinance? Well, that can take 30 to 45 days as well before you even get the money. So exactly a good point. Get a qualified, see how much it's going to cost. And then you can, if you get your estimate or whatever, then talk your financing and get that, straightened out. We can always put it in the bank and save it for you until they're ready to get paid and so forth. But so do you guys, and I apologize if you talked about this earlier, but when somebody is hiring you, or like any contractor, for example, like I mentioned, I'm in Blaine and we've got a lot of homes that have storm damage and contractors are out. And, some people are saying, well, should I just sign my insurance check right over to the contractor, the full amount? And it's like, probably not. So is it typical?
I would recommend no.
Yeah.
And I'm a contractor. I just think that'd be a bad idea.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, people are just getting some really bad advice out there. These contractors like, just sign the whole check over to us. The insurance companies like doing it that way. It makes it that much easier.
Sure.
And so we're trying to advise.
That's a whole different tiger, those kind of, that
It
whole
is.
business of storm chasing.
Yeah,
and
siding,
that kind of
roofing,
stuff.
windows, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But even so, typically what is required, so if we were to hire a contractor, whether even, maybe so not for storm damage, but maybe just, I decided I want to do an extra bedroom or, remodel the bathrooms and the kitchens and that kind of stuff. What is kind of the standard process? So obviously you get a bid, and then is there down payment and when all those kind of questions?
Well, let's talk about that whole you get a bid thing first, though, because this is, I think, where people get tripped up, right? Really briefly, there is a difference between a person who, like a handyman. They may call themselves a contractor. A true contractor is sort of like what we do. We have work that we do in-house, but we also contract with other people to do the work for you. So I think people use that term contractor a little loosely. Yep.
Yeah, and that's great. I appreciate you just saying that. What is exactly a contractor? What does that mean? You contract out the business then.
That's right, and that's where it comes from. So, but we've taken it to mean the guy who pounds the nails when you're putting a roof on or something too. So storm damage, that sort of stuff is very specific. And when people are chasing storms, yes, those are contractors, but if you want your roof replaced, you should find someone who's local, who has been in business for a long time. They won't take all of your money and run and go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So that's step one. If you want an accurate bid, so if you had a project you wanted done, your bathroom, you ask me to come over and give you a bid. I can't give you a bid until the design is done, but I can give you an estimate of what it should cost, and that's usually a range. So most
because if they don't have tile picked out, what if they go with the top-end tile, and here you've given a bid with mid-range tile?
Right. There's so many things that go into it. That's true of, you can buy a $400 toilet or you can buy a $4,000 toilet.
Is it gold?
Yeah, it
does
a lot of really fancy things for you.
Does it have a bidet?
Yes, of course. Yes.
It
plays music.
My uncle out in California.
You know what that is.
Should we tell the story about
when I went out to California,
the condo where you were wondering what the attachment was on the side, and you?
Oh, and I sprayed myself right.
And I'm like, that's a bidet, and you're like, no, I think it cleans the toilet. I'm like, no, that's a aftermarket bidet, and sure enough, he turned the crank and it went
just a little
all
spritz,
over him. We're like, oh well.
My uncle lives in Long Beach, California, and when I went and saw him for the first time in his house, that was the first thing he wanted to show me was his bathroom. He has a remote control on the wall for the toilet, and you can choose. Do you want it the seat warmed up? Do you want to flush? Do you want to spray?
Temperature control. How hard
I was like,
the
oh
spray
my
is.
gosh, do people really spend
Oh,
time?
they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Apparently, they do because
Which
this
is the reason
quiet.
why, back to our topic here, which is the reason why an estimate is an estimate. That is, you go into someone's house, you look at the rest of the house, you think, okay, the value of this house is, let's say, $500,000 or something. A bathroom in this house reasonably is going to cost between $30,000 and $50,000. Now, if you want gold-plated toilets that do things for you, now you might be at $70,000.
Right.
But early on, you can say, like, if you're looking to go to the bank and get a loan, I can say, look, under most circumstances, based off of what else you have here, this bathroom's going to cost X.
Now, is there typically a fee for that for you to come out and give me an estimate or a bid, or is there something that I could do online? I don't know if you websites or other places. I mean, is that something you would suggest? Because I know
I don't like the online aggregators.
No, that's
That's kind of like
Yeah.
click
Just
the
such a-
button.
Damn, so
for-
look, so just you're like,
well, it's just
no.
a total general.
yeah.
Well, that's
general
good
thing.
information, though. That's why I was
So,
asking.
Here's
Yeah.
a good example. So the other evening, I was over at some friend's house, and I was looking at a basement that they had a contractor do, right? And there was no design. It was just, we want our basement redone. And the contractor came in, did a great job. Looks nice, but still no design. So now it's done. So at the end of the day, I come over, and they're like, well, where should we put our TV, right? So I'm looking, I'm like, well, we could mount it on the wall here, mount it over here. And I'm like, well, not really, because now there's no support for the TV because it wasn't thought of. So now you're relying on the stud. Wherever the stud is, that's where you're going to anchor your TV. And there's no outlets. So you've got cords now to deal with hanging down on the wall. I mean, you spent, $40,000 on your basement remodel, and no design was done.
Right.
Well, you know-
for
Or like-
$1,500, you could have had the design done so that all of those little issues were taken care
Right.
of.
You know,
So
and
Yeah.
you know what
where
I
the
would
TV
say,
is,
like,
you know where the couch is,
Right.
and the electrician knows, so that it's seamless, And there's not, we're talking minimal amount of money.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so important. I can tell you, even on a smaller scale, if our listeners are thinking, well, I'm not going to do a 40,000 remodel, that exact same thing happened to me. So I had a feng shui person come out, and
yeah.
I know who.
Kim Julene,
Yep.
and
Who moved?
so yes, to Hawaii. But before she did, she
Nice.
did kind of analysis of my house, and I had I live in a townhome, and so is the very basics, cookie cutter, but she did my feng shui, and she said, and it was the same thing in my living area. I just had a table set up with all my electronics and cords and stuff. And she's like, okay, you've got to clean this area up. And, you should probably maybe put some cabinets in here, this or that. And I was like, great. And then same thing in my bathroom. I'm a girl, right? I kind of have some makeup and accessories. Well, there's really no storage. There was no linen closet built into my laundry room. So I have nowhere for my towels or anything.
Right.
So anyway, so she's like, yeah, some cabinets. So I just called a cabinet maker and I said, well, okay, can you come over and make me some cabinets? Well, he came over and he's like, well, what do you want? I'm like, well, I don't know, just make me some cabinets.
Right.
Exactly what you're talking about. So he just built me cabinets.
Right.
And while they turned it okay, it was exactly what you said,
Well,
James.
because
After
there's
fact,
no
I'm like,
electrical then. in
well,
it,
after fact, I'm like, well, shoot.
where's
No.
your,
I wish
where's
I
your
had thought about this a
where's
little
your
bit more
Yes.
before I
hair
did
blower,
Yeah.
or hair dryer? All that has
Exactly.
to have a spot.
All of that stuff
Yep.
I didn't know because the beautiful cabinets did a fantastic job. They look great. They match everything.
Right.
But had I, and again, I don't know, I know your company, this is, like I said, a kind of a smaller scale job, but
Sure.
do you know, like I said, is there online resources for somebody like myself, or if our listeners want to just do like a,
I
know
don't really go with the online. I mean, you really have to be physically in the space. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, I think, what our thing is.
Uh-huh.
We come
So
there and kind of look at the space and really, assess.
Or I was just thinking if you guys had stuff on your website,
Oh.
sometimes places where you can go I think they've even done it with paint stores now.
Paint stores have an easier time. I know what you're talking about, where you look at the room, you take the picture, you look at the room, and then you can change the color of the walls.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
kind of, guess what I'm saying.
Right.
Not to take away from your company,
Sure.
but does your company or have resources or recommendations for a site where, like you could, move furniture around or give tips or ideas as to
Right.
exactly what you just said. Hey, if you're thinking about remodeling
I
at
got
any
one
level,
suggestion, okay? Because nothing like that exists that I know of, where
Okay.
you can go. it depends on the project, right? Like if you're doing an entire bathroom, you're not going to find a space that has every option of toilet and tub and then you can plug them in and look at it. That's what the designer is actually paid to do, is to sort that out for you.
Uh-huh.
But a good way to do that is to go to Houzz. I will promote them.
Houz.
Houzz, I think, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
houzz.com.
Yep.
Yep.
Have you been there?
I have not, so this is great
Oh,
information.
you're gonna
So
love this.
Yeah.
houzz.com. Okay.
And you start an idea book, and then in that idea book, you find photos of other jobs that have been done, and you start putting these photos in so that when you do talk to the designer, you can say, I want this kind of a bathroom with these elements in it, not this other one.
And we've
Yeah,
had
that's
some
exactly-
great clients that do that.
I
they
think that's a
provide
really
us
good
with a
resource.
lot
Well,
of
and I think
images
that's got to
and
help
then-
you, James, too, because
It
like I
does.
said, if they're trying to tell you their vision,
Right.
how do I explain to you what I want and what I
I just want some
need?
cabinets. Well,
Right,
then you just get cabinets built.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, and trying to tell you. I mean, I guess that's where your expertise comes in. Is
Well, and that's, I think, where we're going too. It's like, if you just have a contractor that comes in, they're just going to but you need that design too. You need that sort of, and that's kind of what we've talked about.
I think a lot of the new guys starting
Thoughtful.
out, that's a mistake they make, is that
Yeah.
they don't know to get from you the design that actually will work. They just say, sure, I can put a bathroom in for you.
Right.
You really got to get to the point where you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have some more questions. We can talk about it more
Right.
in the next segment.
Yeah.
So thanks, Sam and James. I was ready to say
Jammy.
Jams again.
Jammy. Jammy. You're so jammy.
Well, I'm Stephanie Havel with Wells Fargo Home Mortgage.
Dawn Eldridge, Remax Results. Stay tuned for some more great information.